Welcome back to Garage Matters. Today I'll be doing a short review on some of these wrenches that I used to work on these vehicles. Here we have a 10mm, 12mm, and 14mm wrench. These sizes are the most common sizes that I used to work on my cars, especially on these Toyotas and Hondas. The length of these is extra long, and I purposely buy the ones that are long because they help give you that extra leverage when you need to break those bolts loose. This 10mm, she's around 12 inches long. This 12mm is about 13, and then this 14mm is about 15 and a half. Here's a regular size 10mm. This one's about 5.5 inches long. I always opt to use the longer ones because it gives me that leverage. Not only that, but this brand has a ratcheting head that swivels, so it helps you get to those hard to reach places to get those bolts out. Let's take a look at this other 12mm. This is normally the size you will find in an American hardware store, even at AutoZone or like Advanced Auto or Napa. It's really hard to find like a longer wrench. Sometimes you'll have to do what I did in the past to get to those hard to reach bolts. On this one, fortunately, I had to weld two of these wrenches together just to get that extra length. So this one, even though it's welded together, it's about 11.5 inches long. Still shorter than this extended long 12mm wrench that I was able to purchase when I was in Japan. We'll go ahead and take a look at this 14mm. So this is a Duralast brand. So this Duralast is bought from a local auto parts store. This is the longest one they would sell in the store. So even though this is the longest one, it's about 8.5 inches long. Still much shorter than this one that I brought back. And same thing, this one right here. It's got this ratcheting head. I like having a swivel ratcheting head because it helps get into those tight places. You can also tell like the thickness. It's about the same thickness, but it's still thin enough to get into those tight places. Now let's do a quick comparison and put these tools to a test. This is a Husky 14mm. This is the longest one I could find from the local parts store. Sometimes when you try and break these bolts that are on the engine, they're really hard to break because you can't get enough leverage on them because this is so short. What you can do is just take another box end wrench, put it on the open end side to extend it. So you're going to extend it and then just push up on it. It'll break it loose. Just like that. Same thing when you go tighten it down. Put it on here. And then just push back down. So that's how you could use these standard size wrenches to get that extra leverage if you don't have a long wrench. But if you have a long 14mm wrench, there's no need to play that extending game with those two wrenches. You can just put this long one on here, come all the way to the end. You have all that leverage, and then just break that bolt and just start ratcheting it out. It's that simple. Same thing when you go back to install. Just ratchet it on, and then tighten it down. Having a long size wrench like this makes it so much easier, especially when it's ratcheting like this. It's kind of hard to get down there, but with this style, it makes it so much easier to get down here to break these nuts off. Here we have two 10mm wrenches. The one on the left, it's actually got two raised surfaces on both sides. That little clearance actually makes a world of difference when it comes to removing bolts off a vehicle. It gives you just enough clearance to get that bolt off. This one also has a ratcheting head as well. So this head pivots and swivels. The one on the right, it's also ratcheting as well, but it's nice and flush and flat, and there's uses for it too, but for automotive maintenance, I'm always going to use the one on the left. Back up front at the car, we'll go ahead and try to use this ratcheting wrench right here. This one that doesn't have the raised head on it. We'll try to fit it in between this coil pack and this bolt right here. See if it'll come off. Honestly, it's not gonna do it. So you can use these on this car, like here and there, but after a while, once you're like trying to finagle it on and off, like throughout the engine bay, it just gets kind of tiresome. Not only that, but you end up losing a lot of time. So I'd rather just stick with something that I know is gonna work on the majority of the bolts on this vehicle. So we'll go ahead and put this wrench back on here, the one with these raised heads, and see if we can take this bolt off. Fits right on there. Break it off. And then something else that you can do as well, instead of like ratcheting like this, since it's got this raised head on here, you can just turn it and it'll help back it off like that. And then it comes right out. And then for the reinstall, you can do the same thing. Just hand tight, and instead of using your fingers, you can put this back on here and then just turn the raised part right here. Just keep turning it. So this is definitely faster than ratcheting like this, but once you get it nice and snug, all you're gonna do is just slowly tug on it and you're done. When it comes to automotive maintenance, I always find myself gravitating towards a long wrench with a swiveling head that ratchets. It gives me that flexibility to just work on pretty much the majority of the car with just one tool. If you're constantly swapping out tools back and forth, you're wasting time. Yeah, you can probably use like an impact gun right here and like get to most of these bolts, but it's still big and bulky and you might not be able to get into these tight spaces. Other times you'll be using a socket wrench with a ratchet like this, but this compared to this, sometimes you're not going to be able to get into all the places that you can get with this long wrench right here. So I normally pick this up first, swivels like this, ratchets, and it gets the job done for me. They really reduce the time I spend working on these cars, giving that time back to me. Y'all see me using these wrenches all the time throughout my videos. They come in really handy when you're trying to get into those hard to reach places. That's all the way down there. That long reach is extremely helpful. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this week's review on some of the wrenches that I use for automotive maintenance. Remember to join us next time on Garage Matters and hit that like and subscribe button.